Hi guys, Mark Gellard here for Tennis One, and thanks very much for watching. Today I come to you from the beautiful Antalya, Turkey, where I'm here with my two athletes preparing for two women's $10,000 ITF events. I thought this would be a great time at the start of the year to come to you with a video about pressure tennis. Last week I had a conversation with one of my athletes who was playing extremely well in practice, hitting the ball very hard and heavy. When it came to a match situation, she was pushing the ball, not being aggressive, and I asked her, why is this? Why do you feel this? And she said, well, Mark, if I play aggressive or I hit the ball as hard in a match situation, I'll miss. And I said, well, that's exactly a problem we have. We're not taking what we're doing in practice and transferring it to a match situation, and I'm sure that happens to many of you guys. There's a specific principle in the strength and conditioning world called the SAID principle, or specific adaptations to imposed demands. And this basically implies that the more specific we practice, the higher the chances that we carry it over into a match situation will be. And this is something very, very important for tennis athletes, whether you're recreational or professional. I see a lot of players hitting the ball hard or being aggressive in practice, and then they get into a match situation and they play a completely different game style. And this is not effective or efficient use of your practice time. So hopefully today what I'm going to do is give you a few tips that you can use in your practice situations that are actually going to add pressure to you. And although there is a definite time in practice not to give pressure, if you're working on some technical aspect or if you're competing every single week, you definitely need to have times where there isn't pressure on you so that you can relax and work on specific things. But towards matches, towards tournament time, you need to start applying pressure to yourself and imposing pressure so that you become more and more ready for the match situation, which obviously is a high pressure situation. Take a look at this exercise here with two lists of words, and then we'll carry on talking about what this can do to help you on the tennis court.
Okay, take a look at the following two lists of words, list A and list B. What I want you to do is take a moment to look at both of them and then stop this video and pause it while you try to recall as many of the word pairs as you can from either one of the two lists. Okay, now that you've done that, what I want you to do is look and see which side or which list you recall more words from. And if you're like most people, it won't even be close, as you will probably have remembered far more words from list B. And studies show that it's up to 3 times as many. And that's because you had to take a few seconds outside of your comfort zone, struggling to fill in those missing letters. And that is what helps you get better, that little moment of struggle. Okay, so that last exercise just demonstrated the importance of struggling and reaching outside of your comfort zone. Above in this illustration, you can see that a lot of players spend too much time on the inner circle, doing what they're comfortable with, staying in their comfort zone, but they're not reaching, they're not getting better, and they're not improving their skill set. In order to be a better tennis player, you need to reach outside of that comfort zone and get into that area right on the edge of your ability where you enter the deep or deliberate practice zone. And that is how you improve, by constantly reaching to the edges of your ability. Okay, one drill I like to do with my athletes here is just have them hitting down the middle on the baseline, and all I've done here is given them one ball. Instead of having 5 or 6 balls available and in their pockets, they just have one ball. If they are to miss the ball, they must sprint, pick the ball up, and then run back to the baseline to start the point again. So there we see Camilla miss. She's going to run, pick up the ball, and jog back to the baseline and start the point over again. A great way to keep accountable. Another great exercise you can do is hitting cross-court here. What we've done here is we've imposed a punishment. So anyone that misses this ball in the cross-court rally will have 10 double knee jumps. And that's another great way to put some pressure on and actually make you have to play for something rather than just thinking of it as another mundane practice where you can make mistakes and then just feed in another ball. So again, here we're going cross-court. Unfortunate bounce there for Camilla, and she's going to have 10 double knee jumps. And it just adds a little bit of pressure, makes it a little bit more match-specific. Another drill I like to do with players is to have them standing in the middle on the baseline and simply hitting 100 balls in a row without making a mistake. That's 50 shots each. And if you want to increase the level of the drill, you can say anything that lands in a service box doesn't count. So what we're going to do then is not only work on consistency, but also on quality as well. Why I like this drill is because it's great for mental fortitude. You really have to stay focused on every shot, and if you do miss, you have to start back over, even if you're at 99. What I find in this drill, though, is that before we add this in, players will be hitting down the middle, they'll hit nice quality shots, but there'll be a lot of mistakes. As soon as you ask them to do this drill and make 100 without missing, the quality maybe decreases slightly, but the intensity of their feet and concentration will increase. And that's what we need. That's the pressure that we're trying to create that you're going to receive in a match, the tension and pressure that you will have on the line there. And obviously, when you're playing in a match or a tournament situation, what's on the line is a lot more than what is on the line here in this simple drill. But a great way to increase concentration, focus, and again, it really puts some pressure on you. In the 1940s, famous researcher Adrian de Groot undertook an experiment to see the difference between amateur and professional chess players. What he did is he took these players and he asked them to look at a board in the middle of a chess match. And he asked them to look at it for 5 seconds and then recall as many of the chess pieces as they could. What he found was that on average, the amateur players only recalled 5 to 6 pieces correctly, whereas the professional players recalled almost every single piece correct. He then repeated the experiment, but instead of having them in chess match order, he replaced the chess pieces, in random order, i.e. they were not in mid-match order, and they were in no recognizable patterns that you would often expect to see in a chess match. He then repeated the experiment, and what he found was, to his surprise, was that the amateur and professional players both only recalled 5 to 6 pieces correctly. What this showed was that professional players do not just recognize individual chess pieces, rather they recognize patterns. And this is what we can use for our tennis. Okay, so how exactly can this help our tennis? Well, if I ask you to play Roger Federer in the Wimbledon centre court, apart from the fact that he's the best player of all time possibly, there is the fact of familiarity. He has been in that situation on that court many, many times under pressure, and you have not. And so that's part of what we need to understand from this experiment and from this whole video, is that we need to place ourselves and make the practice familiar or very similar to the match conditions. The difference between the professional players and the amateur players is how they see the big picture. Instead of just practicing isolated shots, a serve or a return, I watched a lot of professional players. They practice the first serve plus the first ball. They practice their return plus the first ball. They practice their serve and then their volley, not just isolating different parts. This will increase your match transferability, which is what we're looking for. So Roger Federer, he's familiar with these big pressure situations. He's been in them many, many more times than you have, which is why he expects and is able to perform better in those conditions when he's in them in a match. And also we have to remember that the more previous knowledge that you've stored up in your mind, and the more times you've been in those situations, the quicker you'll be able to go to that bank or that reservoir of information and bring out what you need. It's amazing, even at the professional tournaments I'm at here, how players avoid playing sets or practice sets leading up to the tournament because they have a fear that somehow if they lose, it could hurt their confidence or hurt their match chances once the tournament starts. And I believe nothing could be further from the truth. Playing consistent tennis and playing match or practice matches before the tournament is vital for you to transfer your good tennis over into the real life match situations. So practice these things. As uncomfortable as it may be for you at the start, you will notice significant differences in your match because you have become more comfortable being uncomfortable. In the graph above, you can see the inverted U theory, which is demonstrated by showing the emotional arousal level and the performance and how they're correlated. It's very important as a tennis player that you find what level of arousal you need to be at in order to play your best tennis. The optimal arousal point is often lower for less skilled athletes than for more advanced players, and factors that affect this are often skill level, task complexity, personality, and trait anxiety. Some players, such as Rafael Nada, for example, need to have a very high level of arousal, whereas players like Roger Federer can often be at the lower end of the spectrum, having a slightly lower level of arousal, which increases his performance. Finding yours is key to playing your best tennis, but you can only do this by simulating match situations and pressure situations in practice to find where you need to be. In the sport of boxing, if you're not practicing outside of your comfort zone or not sharp on a particular day, sometimes you can get this happen to you, like Manny Pacquiao did in December 2012, even though he's considered as one of the best boxers in the world. He was knocked out cold. As a tennis player, we don't often feel enough pain when we make an unforced error, so it's so important for us that when we're practicing, we ingrain good habits so that unforced errors feel just as painful as this knockout punch that Manny Pacquiao received. To end this video, I'd like to just summarize a few of the key areas that we discussed in this video and things that you can do yourself at home, whether it's with your coach or your practice partner, to help the way that you perform under pressure as a tennis player. And these simple drills and exercises will definitely see you make improvements. As we talked about, using the one ball drill. When you first start your practice, instead of opening up 4 or 5 cans, just have one can and take out one ball and keep that ball going down the middle for 5 or 6 minutes. And whoever misses has to run, pick up that ball, and then start the point again from the baseline. Another great way to improve accountability for your own mistakes is to impose punishments and rewards within your practice drills. This means if, for example, you make a mistake in the net, 5 push-ups. Or on the contrary, you can actually use positive reinforcement with rewards, whereby if you hit clean winners or if you keep the ball going over 25 or 30 shots, then you actually get 2 points instead of 1. So using positive reinforcement. Make sure you practice what you're not good at. Most players, whether they're professional or recreational that I watch, go out and practice the same thing over and over again, the things that they're good at. People tend to stay away from things that they don't like, and that is what they're not good at. So go out there and do things that are uncomfortable for you. If you're practicing feeling comfortable, you're not getting better. Also, remember not to dismiss errors. Take time to acknowledge them. When you make a mistake, don't just get the next ball out and feed it in right away. Take a second to evaluate what you did wrong so that when the same situation occurs in the future, you know exactly what to do and you've corrected the error. Use the 100 ball drill. This is a great exercise to start a practice as well. Have 100 balls down the middle. This is really a mental drill, and I actually use it at the end of practice as well, especially when the players are very tired. It's a great way to test their mental fortitude and keep the ball going and working on consistency. Although not particularly match specific, it's a great way of increasing accountability. Remember, just like we talked about with Van der Groot, tennis is like chess. Create patterns, not just individual shots. Instead of just practicing your serve, practice the serve and first ball, not just one shot at a time. Cluster them together in chunks. And finally, periodize your coach's information. Try to take all of your information in your lessons, but towards matches and tournament time, taper down the information just like you would taper down your gym workouts so that you can really take the tools you have and use what you have rather than trying to just constantly add to that toolbox. So periodize your information. Hope this helps your tennis and enjoy playing under pressure.
Thanks very much for watching today's video on Tennis One, and I hope this helps you with your pressure tennis. Keep checking back for more great videos in 2013, and Happy New Year.